Well, Mr. Savla, thank you so much for joining us on stage.
My pleasure.
What we're going to essentially be looking at now is India's real estate growth map. And particularly, we're going to be focusing on Delhi-NCR, but we'll be taking a look at other cities as well. We want to basically understand, after the previous session, how exactly things can improve. And for that, we are being joined by Mr. Savla. So, wanted to ask you, do you think that redevelopment can become Delhi-NCR's next growth driver?
I think redevelopment is the buzzword if you are in Mumbai. The city decided that it will grow vertically instead of growing horizontally. And that really worked well for all stakeholders. So the beauty of redevelopment is it's a win-win solution for all stakeholders. I think not only Delhi NCR, but practically every city of India should adopt redevelopment as a solution. Buildings typically have an age life of 40 to 50 years, which has been outlived in almost all cities. So practically reconstructing them is the only solution. We have a very clear roadmap in terms of policies, in terms of schemes in Mumbai, which has worked very well. So I think no need to reinvent the wheel. Rather, the adoption of best practices can be done, and which has worked really well for the city.
Okay. That brings me to my next question. Do you think that older housing societies located in Noida, Ghaziabad, and Gurugram should be redeveloped rather than replaced through peripheral expansion?
100%. Because redevelopment gives the opportunity to the existing residents to come back where they were staying, because uprooting them or taking them to another part would not really be the ideal solution. At the same time, from a government perspective, it's added revenue. For the developer, he goes vertical, and in a social context perspective, vertical development always rewards well from a home buyer's perspective. They always prefer to be on a vertical floor, and there are no real height limits if you see in the areas that you've mentioned. In fact, Gulshan Group's doing a phenomenally high tower in Noida,
Yes.
and those trends have started. So I think better to adopt them early, and it will be rewarded very well.
Okay. I'm curious, out of what you just mentioned, the fact that there are no height limits, do you think that there should be height limits when we talk about building?
See, ideally, if you observe why the height limits are there should be, really the first point of contemplation. They are mainly there from aviation perspective or if your plots are in the flight radar, near the airport zones. Except that there's no real requirement to have a height limit. Or if the land is in an active seismic zone where probably you don't want to permit higher or taller buildings because of the tectonic movements. But except these two parameters, I don't really see why there should be a height restriction. In Mumbai, we are going as high as 304 meters, which is almost like 80 floors. And that's pretty much now become a common thing. It doesn't even amaze us in the city because there are more than 20 projects which are going to the height of 300 meters. So from that perspective, I think all cities should look at this positively. We have the Civil Aviation Ministry, which sits out of Delhi, which has all the data. So I think if the same adoption can be done, should work really well for all cities.
Okay, thank you for that. How do you think that NCR, and I think this might be a question that a lot of people are thinking about these days because we're looking at traffic congestion as well, but how do you think that NCR can essentially balance higher density with infrastructure capacity?
So I think the single solution lies here is with mixed zone. So if you have a mixed zone which is residential and commercial, in the proximity, that can essentially solve the problem to a bit. In Mumbai, we've experienced that. However, traffic snarls are pretty common, and no matter how much infrastructure you throw, actually, there's a very interesting study. More the infrastructure, the cars grow even more. So the infrastructure never really solves the traffic problem. It actually after 3 or 4 years, you'll probably just land up because the number of cars that are growing is really outpacing any infrastructure that you throw. Delhi, fortunately, has had infrastructure pretty early. In fact, Mumbai's been a laggard with infrastructure. We almost joke that we are getting 30 years of infrastructure in last 5 years, which also explains the kind of pollution that is happening in the city. But, jokes apart, really, I think infrastructure will not be able to solve the traffic problem. But yes, infrastructure coupled with good town planning can solve it. Because there's no point going all across the city for work if it can be resolved in the same micro market.
Out of curiosity, when we talk about the entire country, are there maybe one or two cities where you can look at that city and say, this city has had a lot of good planning in advance that ensures that the people who are living in it, residing in it, or even visiting for that matter, are having a good time transporting themselves from maybe point A to point B, living there in general, because we're talking about residential properties?
Very good question. I think principally one needs to understand that housing is not only four walls.
Yes.
It is about augmenting your lifestyle. It is giving you wellness. It is giving you that standard of living, which we always talk. We go abroad for vacations and we say, oh, the Europeans live so well, etc. The quality of life is better. So I think the whole piece is around having that part sorted. I visited Chandigarh recently as part of CREDAI delegation, and I was pretty amazed at how the entire town planning of that particular city is, because they have sectors well sorted, they have gardens at it's almost like you are in a European city or you're in Japan probably. But they replicated that model in Mumbai in a satellite city called Navi Mumbai.
Okay.
So Navi Mumbai is supposed to be the first planned city of, the first planned satellite city of Mumbai, where, they've kind of had those best practices. But again, today, if you see Navi Mumbai, with passage of time, they've kind of not been strict about how they should have gone about. But I think in example from India, I would say Chandigarh would be a very ideal piece. However, they've not gone vertical. They've stuck to horizontal planning, and I think they're very happy about it. So, yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Thank you for that tidbit. I'm curious, what do you think Delhi NCR, Mumbai real estate markets can essentially learn from South India at this point?
Wow, I think South India is my favorite real estate market amongst all the zones. They have transparency, they have accountability, they have good balance sheets, and which explains that developers from South India are essentially ruling the country's real estate. Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai. You just look at the developers over there, and they're pretty much there in every tier 1 city, and they're doing so well. The balance sheets are so good. They're listed, they're delivering well, and they've partnered with fellow developers from the cities where they want to come in, and the whole model works very well. So I think there's a lot to learn from South India. They are pretty much there in NCR, they're there in Mumbai, and we all work together to kind of adopt the best practices. But I think clearly, if you say who's heading the rooster, it's the southern part of India.
Okay, so then one could technically extrapolate from that information that there is a definite gap between North India and South India, and when we talk about real estate that way. How do you think other parts of India, not just North India, can address that gap?
No, I think today's real estate is not about promise. Today's real estate is not about a fancy marketing campaign. Today's real estate is about accountability. And I think the way social media is, you could be in any situation, people would remove their phone, make a 90-second reel and post it on social media. And 2 hours, it would have viraled across the country 20 times. So that's the power. So I don't think you can delay any kind of information, any kind of misbehavior cannot go unnoticed. And I think people are very savvy. We have the highest per capita data usage amongst the world. So I think we are clearly out there. And, the biggest source of news today has become social media.
Yes.
Thankfully, with AI, you can detect some of the wrong news which is coming out, or the fake news as they call. But I think Instagram, X are the biggest source of news today, and you can't escape that. The virality of content is so high that you don't need a mainstream media to really talk about it. Before that, there is public who's already passed judgments, and then the comments. That is the worst part. So your 20, 30-year-old, 3-decade brand with influencers and all the jazz that would have been built can be destroyed in 3 days. So, that's how dangerous. So the only way out is just do the right thing. And if there is some real mess that has happened, just come out and say, this is the issue. We are sorting it. Suggestions welcome, but we are all in this together. There's no run away from this.
Yeah, if I wanted to add 1 or 2 points to that, where you were talking about social media being the new source of news, I think it's all, more of a support ecosystem. You get your media from normal citizens, you get it from your journalists, because even the mainstream media houses that you were talking about, they're focusing a lot on digital. So that way, it's kind of like a supportive ecosystem, in my opinion.
As a nation, we like gossip. So,
Yes.
that's really done well with the system. So I think this is only going to fuel up further.
Yes.
This is not going down anytime.
So back to southern markets now. Why do you think that they have remained relatively stable compared to more speculative markets?
Very nice. So I think job or employment-driven real estate will always be stable because, they principally work around end users.
Okay.
So they don't work around investors. I always say, some parts of Mumbai and, I also say some parts of NCR market, they work like casino. They
How
aren't
so?
really working on basic real estate principles. There's investors who are, creating this uncertainty and volatility. And any micro market where there is investor influx will see that. The reason South India is so stable is because it's all end users. These are end users. See, 40% to 50% of India's IT export comes from South India. And these guys have the jobs. It's the Silicon Valley of India. Have the jobs and they're buying real estate there for end use. So that is principally why South India is the most stable, in terms of growth, in terms of numbers, and there's no volatility. Also, there's abundance of land. So
Okay.
whenever, land is in abundance, landlords don't get to make the market unstable. So there's a lot of instability, especially in MMR, is caused by landlords.
Interesting.
Because land is the basic raw material you need for real estate.
Yes.
So they drive the prices quite a bit. Hyderabad, I'll tell you an amazing fact, has unlimited FSI. So as developers, FSI is Mozart. So, you want to listen to FSI, FSI, FSI. Hyderabad is the only city of India which has unlimited FSI. So you can build as much as you want, of course, subject to the building codes and the safety being in place. And that is very interesting because that really allows the market to be in a balanced situation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. What role do integrated townships and planned urbanization play when we talk about long-term growth?
A huge role. Integrated township is a mini city in itself.
Okay.
So, all your real estate asset classes. I always say that when you talk real estate, don't talk only residential. There is office space, there are GCCs, there are data centers, there's a mall, there's high street, there are restaurants, etc. The whole ecosystem. So if it's a good integrated township, it can provide the ecosystem within that. So essentially, you're cutting out commute, you're increasing productivity, you're causing lesser pollution, and it's far better. So the unfortunate part is land laws are such that we still have a democracy in place, and especially with real estate, making these townships, aggregating lands. Is a tough ask, but wherever they've got, I think all these townships have worked really well.
Okay. So looking east now, do you think that East India is ready for its real estate moment?
Amul started with Bengal, and I think it's a spring moment over there. So I think it's just been waiting. It's a pent-up demand which is there. Tata's always wanted to go to east first, and before they moved out to the west zone. But I think almost all industries would follow suit. East was the financial capital of India much before Mumbai became the financial capital. Somehow East got stuck in time because of whatever political scenario it had. But all the check boxes for growth, whether it's infrastructure, manufacturing, the people, the trade routes, warehousing, logistics, agriculture, everything is in place. So I think it's only a matter of time. You have the right guys governing it. You have a cleanup happening. And I think that's a biggest attraction to a lot of institutional investment which will come in the East. And, the follow through is you get institutional investment, you get companies, you get jobs. Jobs means people means real estate. So it's a cycle that has already started in East. So I'm very bullish on East. And East is itself all ready for, and the affordability is the highest amongst all tier 8 cities. So if you really do an affordability quotient, Kolkata is, or rather Bengal is the most affordable state in terms of land and every parameter as compared to the other 7 tier 1 cities.
So then do you think that West Bengal can essentially become the next major real estate destination?
If, we have the kind of political stability, political will, center and state are aligned really, and if this continues for at least 3 full terms,
Okay.
then it is possible. But, you can't have only one short term of 5 years really do this.
Yes.
So it's very important that, Maharashtra did well because state and center were very aligned. So, the alignment day by day of state and center is becoming more and more important because otherwise half the times they are just fighting amongst themselves. So the growth of the state doesn't happen. But really, if there's alignment, I think it'll do wonders. And people are excited about East. I think everyone's very excited. We at Credai are doing a national conference in West Bengal. 1,000 to 1,200 developers would be going to Kolkata in the month of October. And of course, when you have 1,000 developers going to a particular city, they're also looking at opportunities. So they're just not doing a conference. So I think you'll see a huge influx of multi-city developers entering Kolkata. Land prices are very low. Opportunities are there. And more importantly, the policies and the guys driving the policies are stable. So, yeah, I think it's the East moment. The sun is going to always rises in the East, and I think the rays will be there.
Well said. So then do you think it's correct to term it as an untapped market?
Fully untapped,
Yeah.
huge opportunity, pent-up demand, premium housing, affordable housing, all kind of real estate, not only residential, but malls, office. You go to Kolkata, you feel you've come to Cuba or you're stuck in time,
Yes.
trams and metros and what kind of infrastructure. I mean, there's so much that the city has everything to offer, but just that it didn't get converted. So it's very easy to do that if you have the right piece. You'll see that. I think 2 or 3 years give to Kolkata and you'll see everything going in a very positive direction.
Do you think there's anything in particular that developers should be focusing on when we talk about the East? Or is it an array of things?
I think it'll be all asset classes. Residential's always been the favorite of a developer because
Okay.
the cash flow cycle is very positive. You get money before you've even built. So, or rather you get money to build. So no other asset class really gives you that capital, adequacy. But having said that, I think Kolkata is going to be great for office space, GCC. It's very well placed because the cost of living is so low. that if an employee migrate, and eastern, your southern belt, all these cities of Bangalore, Hyderabad are pretty close in that sense. So if someone is living over there, they'll get a better quality of life at even lesser cost. You know why Mumbai missed the entire IT bus? Because
Why?
the salaries that were getting paid, nothing was getting left as savings. The cost of living was so high. Pune benefited because of that.
Okay.
South benefited tremendously because of that. But I think if East comes, that arbitrage again is in place. So the migration becomes. But again, I'm telling you 2-3 terms, full terms, and center state stability. Otherwise, this will water out immediately.
Okay. Can East India replicate Hyderabad's transformation from a secondary market
100%.
to a national growth leader?
So, Hyderabad, I remember this, the CM of Hyderabad, Mr. Naidu, used to run real estate or run industries like a CEO. So he used to meet the global CEOs of IT companies. He used to fly to the States, he used to fly to their global headquarters and tell them, what do you need? And whatever was the checklist, he used to provide. So he used to run the state like a CEO. He used to not run the state like a CM. If you understand the nuance, there's a difference between running as a CEO and running a state like a CM. So when you run a state like a CEO, you are seeing 10x growth. You are not seeing, simple growth. You are seeing linear growth. And I don't see a reason why Kolkata can't do that, because they have the numbers, they have everything in place. I think pretty much whatever you ask for. So, the platform is there. Just that the CM needs to behave like a CEO. And CMO has that power to provide whatever the industry is asking, whatever the MNCs are asking. And if you do that, I don't see a reason. Ultimately, MNCs also are saving. So they'll also go to a state where they can, remember Titan went to Tamil Nadu. They didn't go to Maharashtra, despite Bombay House being in Bombay, right? So ultimately, wherever the corporates make money,
Yes.
they'll go there.
It's very interesting to see how politics really shapes that, plays a role in that.
Real estate is driven by macro environment. We talk about AI, we talk about construction technology and brochures and marketing, but really the macro environment, you saw the war affecting real estate, 25% cost escalation across the board. So when you make a real estate project, you're working with 400 industries, and almost all of them got affected because of a war which we didn't even fight. So, how the entire choke point has caused an escalation of 25% in our input costs. So macro environment, things which are beyond a developer's control, really dictates how the real estate goes forward.
Okay. Now, how do you think projects such as the Delhi-Mumbai Expressway, the Jewar Airport, and RRTS essentially reshape NCR?
Huge. So I think wherever there is infrastructure, for example, a metro station comes out of nowhere, suddenly you'll see growth corridor operating over there. So because connectivity is the key. So any kind of highway, trans-harbor, coastal roads, metro, industry corridors, I think they only flux real estate in that particular micro market because there's so much more happening, and then you're connected to mainstream. So I think the only way to grow real estate is through infrastructure. It could be in whatever format, but infrastructure follows real estate growth, not the other way.
That's pretty interesting. Wondering now, would anybody from the audience like to ask a few questions? We can open up the floor. Yes, we have.
Sir.
Okay, we have many questions.
It's because of him and Anil I'm actually here. They're doing phenomenal work, and I think his session is after this.
There's an extra one here.
Wait, is that working?
Should be. Testing? No, take
this. Thank you, Dr. Harshul. Actually, a great discussion and so many things. But my main thing is, which you, of course, would have predicted also. What about the real world asset tokenization in India, which can actually power the fractional ownership of the property, which is doing, actually it is learning from other global practices actually. Like, madam, I've asked you about learning from South India, from Mumbai, means within India. But what kind of learning we should get from other countries, especially regarding the tokenization of the real world asset?
Thank you. I'd pretty much anticipated, and it's my favorite topic as well.
Yeah.
My first PhD was on REITs, and fractional ownership very closely is a byproduct of REITs as well as SM REITs. Fractional ownership actually mushroomed a lot during the pandemic because people wanted small ticket investment options, and it was quite an unregulated space in that sense because anyone was opening a platform and there was no regulation. People were running it essentially like a PMC and doing their own whims and fancy. To a point that I actually got scared and I did a blog saying that this could be India's next big scam. Because people would, it's like the Chakravyu, you just have a good entry, but there's no exit point to it, and a very unregulated space. And it's the first time I was very, positively surprised. India, we have laws after an accident happens or after a scam gets reported. So usually there is a committee which is made, does investigation, and then they legislate a law so that such scams don't happen in the future. But I must commend, really amazing job by SEBI to, bring this space in regulation. So SEBI very wittingly, didn't wait for any casualty. They actually made SM REITs, and they didn't even say fractional ownership is banned or fractional ownership is not good. They didn't do any kind of PR. So, which is a very interesting strategy. I was very amazed because otherwise, normally fear is used to push something in this country, but they actually just very quietly, started SM REITs. They understood that the entry criteria of REITs, which is 500 crores, etc., is not going to be suitable for 90% of India's real estate because we operate a lot in stratas. So they came up with SM REITs, which allows you as low as 50 crores to 500 crores. So that becomes very achievable if you want to be clean, you want transparency, accountability, and you want to be governed and be part of that space. So which essentially meant that the good quality players of fractional ownership actually migrated to the SM REIT platform. So that actually separated the men from the boys. So it was a very subtle message for investors that if you want your money safe, if you want growth in a regulated space, put money in SM REITs. So essentially, overnight, the tagging changed from fractional ownership to SM REITs. Of course, any new law has its own teething problems. So, but SEBI is very open to recommendations. They have stakeholder meets regularly. They take suggestions very, positively. And I had attended one such meet out of curiosity, and they're recruiting IIMs and IITs. So that really explains the quality of resources which are in this institution. So if you have an IIM IIT guy over there, so he's also thinking his thoughts are actually put into action, and which is showing so much positive results. So, sir actually mentioned a couple of them, and I'm so sure this space is going to blast because you have warehousing, you have data centers, you have logistics parks, you have malls, office space building, GCCs, and all of these can migrate to the platform of fractional ownership stroke SM REITs. And I think huge scope, huge potential, and a must invest. Instead of putting money in these mutual funds and they are passes, I think personally. I don't have a bias because I'm from real estate, but honestly, if you see, if you want stability, if you want growth, incremental, I think fractional ownership space, and that is how US has grown. So 90% of US real estate is owned either by REITs or fractional ownership. So, 90% of the capital goes over there. So it's pretty natural that in the next 5 to 10 years horizon, you'll see exponential growth in this space. Singapore is a very similar study, and the start is always slow. So it takes 5 to 10 years for people to understand, educate, be aware. But ultimately, then it becomes an inflection point. So it just shoots like a rocket, after that initial 5 to 10 years. So I think huge scope.
Yes.
So thank you very much. I have a question. And before that, my appreciations for the quality of discussion that we are enjoying very much. Aayesha, the quality of questions as well as the answers by Dr. Harshul. My question is, you have a futuristic view that elevated buildings up to 80 floors, and yesterday we saw accident happened in China, 105 floors building. So is there any study? Because if you go for scuba diving, say for a couple of feet down the sea level, and it is recommended that the same day you should not go for the air travel because your lungs are not properly accustomed for that. Similarly, if you go something like 300 above the surface, and daily your routine becomes like that. So I myself experienced while going up and coming down in some other countries. So that is not quite, I think, comfortable. So what do you see, and is there any studies to support that?
No. So this 300 meters growth of height in Mumbai, what we are seeing is not an overnight story. So Mumbai was also a three-storied. Mumbai was bungalows. Bungalows gave way to three-storied. Three-storied gave way to five-storied. Five-storied became 7. And then we had a very famous thing called 70 meter. So which is essentially 20 floors. So even today, if you see, 80% of Mumbai is 70 meters, which is 21 floors. It's only 20% of Mumbai which has gone above 70 meters. Globally, if you see, in terms of FSI, except Hyderabad, by and large, India is playing around 4 or 5 FSI. If you compare nations of the world, like Hong Kong probably, or Singapore, or Chicago, where land is scarce and you don't have much of land really, the FSI in those countries and cities are already around 15 to 17 as of today. Now, when you deal with such high amount of FSI, the only way is going vertical. Second, if there's urban densification, you'll have to go vertical. But having said that, from day one, it is not expected that cities will straight migrate to 300 meters. The start will always be 28 meters. It'll be 70 meters. And even today, Mumbai, 80% is at 70 meters. So it's not that all of us are there. But my sense is the world is already there. The world is already toying around 300 meters and 200 meters. It's alien to our nation, but they are already over there. Whenever we go abroad, we pay tickets and we go to these observation decks also. So, and in a present globalized world where, it is not restrictive, the technology flow is so easy. I mean, I can easily work with a Japanese contractor or a Singapore-based company. In fact, we all use international architects in our project. It's only about time that there'll be international vendors, international contractors, which will come and, give the same experience. Just like, and Harvard is probably thinking of opening in India. So similarly, the vendors over there who are already doing this successfully, I fully appreciate the concern around wellness, the concern around health. But please have this in mind that you will have international material vendors and contractors using their best practices come in here. Having said of accidents, I think whenever you're doing work in our day-to-day life also, there will be 1 or 2 mishaps. So the mishap is a sign that you're doing some work. So, we should not, at least I believe we should not judge by 1 or 2 stray incidents of an entire phenomena which will happen. And this is invariable of what we discuss or debate. This is the only way the world has migrated, unless, cities like Chandigarh, etc., who've decided consciously that they don't want to go vertical. Their suburbs are going vertical, they don't want to go vertical. But if there's urban densification, and there's a good study, 400 million people are going to be part of urban densification in the next 20 years. So how will you accommodate all these people? So the only way is going vertical. FAR is increasing every 5 years. To consume that FAR, developers not leaving any FAR. So if the FAR is available, he's going to consume it. Vertical is the way, but yes, ESG as they call it, the environment, sustainability, governance, that is no more a boardroom discussion. It is a basic expectation, and I think that will address the concern which you rightly have.
All right, we'll just take one final question.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I'm Dinesh. My query is about the RERA implementation in the real sense about the RERA to protect the house owners. So I would like to ask that how strongly RERA has been able to, protect the interest of the house seekers. Still, what are the lackings in which it has not been able to, strongly implement? Because real estate sector is often linked to IBC. Means real estate means so many cases to insolvency and bankruptcy. What's the reason that, real estate is badly coined with IBC, that any improvements or any policy changes in real estate has to be linked with the IBC? Means besides RERA, why does it happen that the funds which are supposed to be for a particular project, they are siphoned off? So where is the lackings of the RERA and what further improvements are needed? Thank you.
I'm very happy you raised this question. I just completed my PhD in law and my thesis was on RERA. It was India's first thesis, in fact, on this. And part of my PhD research, I didn't confine myself only to India, but actually looked at real estate regulators globally and how it's quite interesting. RERA was actually modeled on the Singapore real estate regulations, and which actually is quite foolproof in that sense. But point well taken. See, RERA is a 5-year-old child. The law itself is 5 to 6 years old. So how much do you expect from a child to deliver is what RERA will deliver. I think principally the mistake, and I would call it a mistake that was done while adopting RERA was, it was made retrospective also. So, you need to understand the efficacy of RERA from two perspectives. How many projects which started after RERA came into place, and what has been their scorecard, vis-a-vis what were the legacy issues which were there in the sector, or historically a stalled project or a doomed project which was started prior to RERA, and RERA was expected to be that Sharma ji ka ladka, or that magic wand which will resolve a legacy issue. So if you actually compare that, and which I've done as part of my thesis, the efficacy of RERA in projects which start, and this is I'm talking across the nation. For projects which started after RERA came in, which means the promoter was well aware about the guidelines, about the rules, regulations. Of course, each state has propagated RERA in their own sense because of real estate being a concurrent list item, but 90% is the efficacy. So, 9 out of 10 times projects have gone down right, and which is a very great number as compared to the legacy issues if you really see with the sector had. Now, whatever reporting happens in the mainstream media or reporting that happens across is of legacy issues. That is projects which were started. And a lot of projects, especially NCR, they are done in phases because NCR is really known for its scale. And the projects which were started prior to RERA, and RERA got imposed on them. So unfortunately, in that number or statistics that RERA throws, that number gets mixed up. So firstly, it should be seen from that lens. Secondly, there are pieces where home buyers are confused whether to go to RERA, whether to go to high courts, whether to go to consumer courts. It is said that consumer courts are the fastest. RERA is still developer-driven, etc., etc. But, I would just address this that, whenever I start, I'm a developer, and whenever I start my project, I'm so well aware about the accountability that is being imposed on me and the liability that has been imposed on me. Real estate has never been looked by a promoter as a liability. A project start was always considered an asset. Today, the start of a project, a promoter thinks that it is his liability because the cost to complete has become his personal liability. So I think RERA has created that mind change, especially in the developers operating in today's era. But yeah, legacy issues I do, and I strongly feel, as a stakeholder operating in this space, I don't think only RERA can solve the legacy issues or stalled project. I've actually written books on real estate. I've done 26 books, one of which is on stalled housing projects. In my view, you should have a separate cell which has a quasi-judiciary power which can resolve these issues. RERA alone will not be able to. They'll pass an order, but it doesn't get implemented.
With that, a big thank you to our audience for giving us those very interesting questions, and a big thank you to our esteemed guest.